Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this is part 2 of my buffed vehicles of the 1.10.1 update, which is currently available on the test server and should be coming to World of Tanks in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So, the Object 140, one of my favourite tier 10 medium tanks in the game. One of the vehicles that I use to be able to contest the first few seasons of ranked battles. Although that was before the Object 430U was in the game, and since the 430U went in, I didn't really feel the need to be playing the Object 140 too much. Nevertheless, the Object 140 is going to be getting some substantial buffs, although they don't look substantial, but I'm going to explain why they actually are. And if you're an Object 140 player and you do know how to play the vehicle, you will instantly notice why they are so effective. So the Object 140, 2 simple buffs to this tank. A bit like the 121 that I featured yesterday, the vehicle's upper hull armor is being improved. From 100 to 110. Doesn't sound so impressive, right? Also, the vehicle's gun depression is being buffed up to 7 degrees, which is what you see the vehicle doing here. Basically working a ridgeline unlike any other Soviet medium tank is capable of by using its 7 degrees of gun depression. This allows the vehicle to hide its hull armor. This allows the vehicle to expose only its turret. And if you can do that against vehicles like the TVP, while previously it was really awkward to try and use the 6 degrees of gun depression this vehicle has, and it's definitely one of the best things about the tank compared to the T62A and the Object 430U, which only have 5 degrees of gun depression. Now that you got that 7, you can just basically expose only your turret and avoid exposing your hull. But if you do expose your hull, it's actually massively more effective, because what you'll find out is that it's not just 10 millimeters of extra hull armor, it's 1 degree of gun depression on the tank as well. So let me pause for a second, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So here is the Object 140 in the current version of the game. I'm going to show you what the tank is like with 6 degrees of gun depression when it's also angling, and how effective its hull armor will be. So we can see the Object 140, it kind of nearly gets to the point where it will auto ricochet armor piercing rounds and APCR rounds. But it doesn't quite get there, especially if you want to try and aim at the opponent's hull. You are going to have to expose your own. That means the vehicle in the current patch has 256 millimeters of effective upper hull armor. However, now let's talk about the Object 140 on the test server with 7 degrees of gun depression and that extra bit of 10 millimeters of upper hull. You can clearly see now that you have transcended from the 6 degrees, where it's not an auto ricochet because it will be 70 degrees of angling, to 7 degrees, where now the whole of the upper hull is an auto ricochet against armor piercing and APCR rounds. However, of course, as you all know, whoa, nearly knocked a plate over there. That would have been a good one. As you all know, if you are a regular on this channel, you will know exactly how all the ammunition works in the game. And you should know that heat rounds will penetrate up to 85 degrees of angled armor. Sounds a bit weird, right? Heat rounds were meant to be the ones that you use against non-angled flat surfaces. It's not really the case. So heat rounds will go up to 85 degrees of angled armor. But they don't have any normalization. So what you can see here is that when we change between the APCR rounds, it looks like you would actually only need about 300 millimeters with APCR, but with heat, you're actually going to need up to 340 because you don't get those 3 degrees of normalization that you will have on the APCR rounds. Okay, so what you effectively need to know is that even if you fire heat at the Object 140 on the test server, the next patch of World of Tanks, if it's using its 7 degrees of gun depression, you're still only about a 40 or 50% chance to be able to go into the tank. Whereas previously with the vehicle's 100 millimeters of armor and 6 degrees of gun depression, yeah, you were pretty much going through the vehicle 80 or 70% of the time. So massive buffs to the flexibility of the Object 140, and also the fact that even though the armor has only increased in thickness by 10 millimeters, that extra degree of gun depression makes the effective armor much, much, much better. And so that means that now the Object 140 for me on the test server feels absolutely monstrous. And again, I'd kind of question Wargaming as to why they really needed to buff this vehicle. I do feel like it's pretty good. I feel very competitive when I play the Object 140. Maybe not so much as the 430U, but that was because the 430U was just frankly overpowered with its upper hull armor and its alpha damage. Why does a medium tank need to have good camo, high alpha, great upper hull, and at that point, really good gun dispersion values? Its gun dispersion is still not bad, but it's not even close to what the 140 has. And so I think with these changes, in my opinion, I do think that it might actually catapult the Object 140 past the 430U in the hands of a player who knows what they're doing. Just look at that. You pop round the corner, you've got near perfect accuracy with dispersion values with the vertical stabilizer this vehicle has. And of course, your Soviet, of course you can side scrape against the Jagdpanzer 100. That's a 170mm shell hitting this tank. But the side armor of the Object 140 was enough, when angled well, to be able to bounce the Jagdpanzer 100. Now this is a really interesting scenario here. Previously, if you fought a Centurion Action 10 in your Object 140 on a ridgeline like this, you were a pretty big idiot. However, now with 7 degrees of gun depression, even if the guy's loading heat, as he is, he's fired 4 heat rounds at my vehicle, he just can't reliably go through my upper hull. Of course, he will still be able to go through my turret cheeks, as you can see there, he hit to the side of my turret. But remember that this vehicle has 2,900 base DPM, which means that for every time he shoots at me, I can shoot at him twice. And right up until those 3 heat rounds entering the Centurion Action 10, which I really did need on that ridgeline, we had dealt 5,000 damage and 1,800 spotting in this game in the first 4 minutes of the battle, and we did that without heat rounds. Pretty chuffed about that. It shows you just how monstrous this vehicle will be on a ridgeline. It's kind of a bit like a UDES, but it's just Soviet. Now, of course, it doesn't have near the same kind of gun depression as the Tier 10 Swedish medium tank. 7 is not 12 degrees of gun depression after all. But remember, this vehicle's got the side armor. The vehicle's also got an impressive turret, and it's just got that incredible gun handling to go along with it that only you really have to be playing kind of your Soviet mediums to truly appreciate that. Or I guess your German mediums as well. But a vehicle like the Leopard, that doesn't have the armor to go along with it. And so all in all, I think that the Object 140 with these 7 degrees of gun depression is just an absolute monster. I mean, we were able to block 2,500 damage, enough to kill the vehicle over, and 8,000 combined in under 5 minutes. Yeah, this vehicle's definitely better than ever on the test server. And as I highlighted with the angling of the armor, that 1 degree of extra gun depression allows the vehicle to transcend. It transcends from being penned by armor-piercing rounds that have high penetration to now no longer being penned by armor-piercing rounds, even if they have great penetration. And unfortunately for me, I do kind of mess up a little bit here at the end of the game against the Stridsvagn 103B. Tried to shoot the guy's tracks twice there. Felt like the first one was a little unfortunate with the dispersion, but whatever. We managed to pick up an extra 673 spotting at the end of the game. All right, double helping of gameplay today. Let's jump into it. Alright, so this time we are playing on Mountain Pass. Now, where would I like to go on Mountain Pass? Yeah, you can see that I actually clicked the map exactly where I'm going right from the get-go. I am going to the K3 area. I want to push aggressively, I want to get into that little nook where I can be able to engage tanks to my left, engage tanks to my right. That's exactly where I want to be going into. If you can find locations where you can just sit, hold down in scenarios against your opponents, then you are going to be absolutely dominant, as you would expect in a Soviet medium tank. It's always the dream of a Soviet medium tank to be able to get into those positions, and if you can do so, now the vehicle's going to be better than ever with its 7 degrees of gun depression and the better upper hull armor. It's just bizarre to me now because this vehicle, it's not quite a heavy, but it's definitely starting to get towards that area when it's got 110mm of upper hull armor with the extra gun depression that the vehicle has. And this TVP, he's probably thinking like, oh, this is my position, I get to shoot all the people in the center of the map, no, how about no now? How about I just push forwards into a position that would have been very tricky to use with only 6 degrees of gun depression, but now I've got a rock to hide behind, I'm forwards, I'm aggressive, I'm on a test server, it doesn't really matter, I guess, so a bit of reckless play here can sometimes pay off. Not sure if doing this every single time, if you don't see that your team is advancing along with you, would really pay off, but I really wanted to just test the vehicle. I wanted to get into scenarios, I wanted to hide that lower plate, I wanted to angle the upper hull as much as I can, I wanted to sit in front of heat rounds from heavy tanks to really show you in this video how truly monstrous the new gun depression with that little upper hull buff could be. So it's one of these things where it's just a complete snowball effect. And I wonder if Wargaming had really expected just how much that 10mm of upper hull armor would create with 7 degrees of gun depression as well. And of course, with the heat rounds that we're going to be firing left, right, and center, the heavy tanks don't really have armor against me at decent distances. So It was really one of the things that was holding back the Object 140 was the fact that it couldn't really quite sit in a hold down position and expect to bounce every single shell that was fired at him. Probably the only thing that was keeping it from being balanced, right? And as I mentioned in my 121 video yesterday, I do very much worry about the power creep in World of Tanks and turning all of the vehicles into super weapons, especially when they're not really buffing all of the tier 8s and tier 9s, and you can't keep buffing all of the other premium vehicles. How can they constantly try and think about buffing 400 different vehicles that there probably are at tier 8 and 9 and 10? Well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. Actually, probably not. There probably are about 300 to 400 vehicles at tier 8, 9 and 10 in the game. I should know, I've got a load of them in my garage. In fact, I'm going to be doing a bit of a spoiler here. I'm going to be doing a premium tank showcase right now on Twitch. I'm going to be playing every single one of the premium vehicles that I have. Well, at least until I fall asleep. Because I realize that there are 80 premium tanks. I've got 80 tier 8 premium tanks on my account. I feel like the biggest whale ever. Well, I would do, at least originally I was, when I was still paying for them. Luckily now, Wargaming do actually give them to the community contributors to be able to test out. We're not paid to make videos on the premium vehicles, but at least I'm not getting fleeced for like $40 every single time to be able to feature them, because who really needs 80 different premium tanks? But I'm not judging. If you want to, it's your money, whatever, you do with it what you want. Anyway, I'm getting completely derailed. Do you think that maybe I'm trying to distract you from one of the stupid things that happened in this game? Yeah, I went up on top of the hill, I went to go and try and get the leopard, and my EBR is, I guess, napping, and of course, the test server, they're going to cap. And it's completely the right thing to do. Why would they want to die to 14 tanks? The enemy are going to be able to cap out this one, as I'll show you. There you go. 3, 2, 1. EBR doesn't manage to hit the Type 5 Heavy. In fact, the Type 5 Heavy hits the EBR. Well capped by the enemy team. If I was probably playing on a live server, it would have definitely been my duty to go back to be able to look after the cap circle. But as it was a test server, I'm not really too bothered about the outcome. The purpose of today's video is to let you know exactly how the 140 will be performing if these buffs go through. And the conclusion should be that, yeah, this thing feels like a monster. Of course, when you take one of my favorite vehicles and then just flat out buff it to a point where they can't really go through your hull armor too effectively, if of course you're using your gun depression, is there any surprise? 6,000 damage, 1,281 base experience, 3 kills, and if we had been running a premium account, we would have made a decent profit this game of about 15 or 20,000 credits. In the next game, this time a defeat on Mountain Pass, but 4,800 damage and did we do any spotting here at all? No, not really. We did block 1,220 damage though, enough to kill half of my vehicle. Hit every shot we fired, as you would expect with this kind of dispersion values. And with a premium account, again, we would have made about 20,000 credits profit. Just the fact that I'm blocking so much damage now in an Object 140, previously things that would only be possible in a 430U, yeah, this thing does feel wild. I wonder if Wargaming will tune it back a little bit on the test server. I think it probably would be better for the game if they did tune it back a little bit. It does feel absolutely monstrous for me now, but you know what? Wargaming probably want to have their outdated tech trees monstrous. They want to probably make them relevant through power creep in the current meta of the game, so you feel that you have to grind all your way up to be able to get them. While that is easy content for Wargaming to take their less relevant tanks and to buff them up to a point where everybody feels that the need to now grind them because they're kind of the best vehicles, or shall I say they're at a point where they're desirable to have in the game, comes at the expense of just power creep. Can they manage to balance all of their tier 10 tanks when it's become more important than ever to have more balanced vehicles inside the game, considering that there's more ranked game modes available for everyone, where everybody wants to be competitive? The tier 10 balancing is of utmost importance. And it's doubly important now, considering that Wargaming had the fantastic cojones to be able to remove reward vehicles from ranked battles, making it a place where tech tree tanks can go and perform, where truly the idea of player skill comes more into it. However, of course, I don't want to go on. I'll have to talk for about 20 minutes to talk about everything that's still wrong with ranked. That'll probably happen in a different video. All you really need to know today is that if you have an Object 140 and you like your Soviet medium tanks, this thing feels amazing in the current test server, and I can't wait to be playing this thing in ranked again, because I will be. I will play this thing in ranked again if Wargaming do make these changes. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, I'm doing a very special showcase right now. I'm going to play every single tier 8 premium tank that's in my garage. So if you've ever wanted me to play your favorite premium tank, now's your chance. Alternatively, if you've ever wanted me to play a premium tank that you don't have but were thinking about possibly getting, or just want to know my opinion about all of them, well, now's your chance as well. I'm going to show you the gameplay. I'm going to talk about them during the gameplay. Let's see how many I can be able to get through in the probably 6 or 7 hour session of tier 8 premium grinding I'm going to make. And ballpark figure, I'm hoping that possibly I can make about 6, or if I play incredibly well, 7 or 8 or even 9 million credits today. I need them for the equipment, right? I'm sure that you all do too. Anyway, looking forward to seeing you all right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.